Hey guys, welcome back to Museum Greg Reads. My name is Elizabeth, and today we're going to go over my March hopefuls. So I'm much more of a mood reader than not. And yes, there are times where I can set my mind to doing a challenge and just knock everything out, to do buddy reads or to do my book club. But I like to have a lot of flexibility in my time and in my reading journey because life is crazy and sometimes I just want to change things up. So I'm going to go over a couple of books, some of which have a firm plan and some of which I just kind of feel like might be interesting in the month of March. And first up, we're going to go with one that I'm carrying over from February, and that's The Dark Forest. So The Dark Forest is the sequel to Three Body Problem. This is a dense sci-fi read, and I have been absolutely in love with this series so far. It just takes me a little bit longer because I'm reading footnotes and stopping to process and really absorbing what this author is putting out. So I'm really excited to finish this and maybe jump into the final book in the series. We'll see. The second book needs no introduction, and I've already read it. It's March 3rd. I've already read it. That's Barbarian's Prize by Ruby Dixon. This is book 5 in the Ice Planet Barbarians series. This one follows Tiffany and Saluk. This is much more of a friends to lovers, which I didn't realize I was really missing out of the Ice Planet Barbarians series. This is the new special edition that just came out on February 28th, and I pretty much devour them as soon as they come back. As soon as they come out. I pretty much devour them as soon as they come out. Much to the chagrin of folks I know who have read the series completely, I've been waiting for the special editions to come out before I read each book. That way I get the full story, any edits that she's made, new content, and frankly, it slows me down. Because otherwise I would have read all of these in like a week and then been disappointed that it was over. So this is my way of delayed gratification. Okay, next we have the book club pick for the in real life book club that I'm a part of, and that's Amari and the Night Brothers. This is the first book in a middle grade trilogy following Amari as she is searching for her missing brother, and she believes that a secret supernatural organization knows where he is and may be responsible for him going missing. I've not heard a single person say one bad thing about this book, so I'm really excited to dig in. Okay, next up I have a buddy read, and that's going to be To Be Taught If Fortunate. You probably saw this in my embarrassing February book haul where I picked this up at my local bookstore on Valentine's Day. I am currently very obsessed with Becky Chambers, and I'm going to be buddy reading this with Katie from Katie's All Booked. She's also a new creator on the platform. I've linked her in the description, so go ahead and go check her out. I'm really excited to see more content from her. I literally know nothing about this except that it's Becky Chambers, and I'm here for Becky Chambers. We show up for Becky Chambers in this house. Speaking of Becky Chambers, I would like to get to the third book in the Wayfarer series this month. This is Record of a Spaceborne Few. I adore this series. I powered through the first two so quickly and just ate them up and took a little bit of a break because I had other plans. This was generously gifted to me by Vish from Books with V as part of a Patreon giveaway, and I'm so excited to dive back in. I'm ready to cry. Every other book in this series has made me cry, so let's bring it on. Let's bring on the tears. Speaking of making me cry, I would also like to get to We Spread. I've never read anything by Ian Reid. I honestly don't actually know that much about this book except that everybody is raving about it. It has something to do with Alzheimer's and it makes people cry. This was generously gifted to me by Sarah from Sarah's Shelves. I know this was a huge favorite of hers at the end of last year and also made her cry. Generally speaking, if she's gonna cry, I'm gonna cry, and we'll probably text each other pictures. But I'm really excited to dig in and see what all the hype is about. I trust Sarah's recommendations to me implicitly, so I'm in for a good emotional time here. So now we're gonna get into some slightly more lighthearted reads for March, starting with A Cosmic Kind of Love by Samantha Young. Not really heard many people talking about this, but the premise sounded really cute when I was browsing through half-price books. And this follows a party planner who ends up with a bunch of personal material from a bride's ex for a failed wedding, and that ex happens to be an astronaut on the International Space Station. And through these messages, somehow they fall in love. Or something like that. I don't know, but I'm here for some astronaut and event planner romance. Sounds like a fun time to me. So remember how I talked about how I have a little problem with just being in my local bookstore, and how I don't help myself with those problems because I just go there and spend the afternoon? Well, that happened this week. I worked out of the bookstore on Wednesday and of course couldn't come home empty-handed, and that brings us to the Atlas of Extinct Countries. And this is exactly what it says it is. This is a nonfiction that goes into brief histories on countries that no longer exist. I find that fascinating. Actually, as a child, I was obsessed with my father's childhood atlas. I really, from a young age, was fascinated by countries that no longer appeared on my maps. So this is going to be a really fun, interesting little mini dive into, I think, 45 no longer existing countries. So this should be super fun. And this is by Gideon Defoe. I'm really bad at telling you the names of these authors while I hold up these books, so I'm sorry. My apologies. So the last of the physical books before we jump into my NetGalley hopefuls is going to be The Kaiju Preservation Society by John Scalzi. So the Kaiju Preservation Society follows our main character who's working a dead-end job, delivering food through Favor or DoorDash or whatever you have in your area. And he runs into an old acquaintance who says he's working for an animal rights organization, only it turns out that that animal rights organization is to preserve kaiju, giant monsters like Godzilla and Mothra, who are intergalactic beings, or interdimensional beings. That's a better term. They are interdimensional beings. And hilarity and hijinks ensue. Probably not so much hilarity, but hijinks for sure. This really piqued my interest before it came out last year, and I just haven't gotten to it yet. Because my TBR is out of control. So yeah, okay. And now for the NetGalley portion of this video. First, we have Mortal Follies by Alexis Hall. Now, ever since I read A Lady for a Duke last year, I have just been eating up the Alexis Hall backlist. I cannot recommend A Lady for a Duke enough, and so many of their books are just to die for. And this is a historical sapphic romance. I'm going to read you some of the description. It is the year 1814, and the life of a young lady of good breeding has many difficulties. There are balls to attend, fashion to follow, marriages to consider, and of course, the tiny complication of existing in a world swarming with fairy spirits, interfering deities, and actual straight-up sorcerers. If that doesn't sound like a good time, I don't know who you are. I'm here for it. I'm ready for it. I so enjoyed their last sort of historical Edwardian era romance, and now we're going to add in a fantasy element. Honestly, Alexis Hall can do very little wrong. Next up, we have Rubicon by J.S. Dews. Dews also wrote The Last Watch, The Exiled Fleet, some other sci-fi that you've probably seen or heard of. Now, this follows a female protagonist, and it says that Sergeant Adrienne Valera wants to die. She can't. After enduring a traumatic resurrection for the 96th time, Valero is reassigned to a Special Forces unit and outfitted with cutting-edge virtual intelligence aid. They could turn the tide of the war against intelligent machines dedicated to the assimilation or destruction of humanity. Sounds like a fun time to me. I'm here for it. Give me a war with the machines. Then we have Quantum Radio. This actually has already released. Oops. This released this week. This is by A.G. Riddle, and frankly, I picked this up on NetGalley because the cover reminded me of Stargate, which is one of my favorite franchises of all time. It just is. It's who I am. So this is a scientist who's made an incredible discovery that may answer the deepest questions of human existence, but what he's found is far more dangerous than he ever imagined. He's a quantum physicist who has dedicated his entire life to research. At CERN, he analyzes data generated by the Large Hadron Collider, the world's biggest and most powerful particle accelerator. Now he's found a pattern in its output. It looks like organized data stream being broadcast over what he calls the quantum radio. Could this be a signal from the universe? A message sent from the future, or something else entirely? This feels like it's gonna be first contact. And I love some first contact, so I'm here for that. And last, we've got And Put Away Childish Things. But this is a novella by Adrian Tchaikovsky, who's the same author who wrote all of these Children of Time books that I have purchased and not read yet. Oops. But this is going to be more of a fantasy, where those are science fiction. The description on this reads, Harry Bodie's been called into a delightful fantasy world of his grandmother's beloved children's books. It's not delightful here at all. All roads lead to Underhill, where it's always winter and never nice. Harry Bodie has a famous grandmother who wrote beloved children's books set in the delightful world of Underhill. Harry himself is a failing kids' TV presenter whose every attempt to advance his career ends in self-sabotage. His family history seems to be nothing but an impediment. An impediment or worse. What if Underhill was real? What if it has been waiting decades for a promised child to visit? What if it isn't delightful at all? And what if its Denzians have run out of patience and are taking matters into their own hands? Oh, twisted fairy tale. Oh, here for it. So excited. So that's it. Those are the books that I'm aiming to get to. Probably won't get to all of them. There's a good chance that if I do a wrap up, you're going to see a whole different list of books that I did actually end up picking up, because that's who I am as a person. But let me know in the comments below if there's anything here that you've read or that you are excited to pick up yourself. What do you think I should start with? Obviously, I've already started with Ice Planet Barbarians, but what else do you think I should get to on this list and make a priority? If you enjoyed this, go ahead and hit that like button. I post once a week, so you can go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you're interested in seeing more from this weirdo. Got links to all of my socials, including Goodreads and Storygraph, in the description. And until next time, bye.